along. It is the final countdown to CPF. We have filed our plan with the feds. Of course, we don't have approval yet, but we did file that before the September 24th deadline. We anticipate a few tweaks in that. That's been our experience with some of the planning grants that we have filed. So we expect a little bit of back and forth with the feds, but our plan really doesn't have anything new or different than other states that have been approved. So we expect pretty smooth sailing, we hope. The only slowdown that we may have is our federal officer that was assigned to Mississippi did leave his position, and so someone new is being assigned to Mississippi. So I think that might provide a little bit of a slowdown, but hopefully not. We think perhaps we will have approval by the end of this month, but of course we just don't know. That is a guess on my part. But while we wait on that, we are moving ahead and getting everything in place to start our program. You all know that we are governed by the Treasury guidelines, also Mississippi state law, and I'm going to talk about maybe some particulars in a few minutes. But first, I think we're going to go through, we all have a few things that we want to share with you, different members of my team. And so I'm going to call on Ashley first, if you would give us what you have to say.
Sure. I will just let you guys know I am the communications person for the office. That's why you've been getting all the emails from me about all these meetings we've been having. But so October is Digital Skills Month, and so we are looking to highlight some different programs around the state and maybe host a few of our own. So if you guys have anything with your companies, any sort of digital skills training, ACP signups, anything of that nature that you'd like us to promote on our social media and on our website, I'd love for you to send those to me or put me in touch with your PR person that I could work with them to promote some of those types of events. I have kind of looked around on Facebook and seen a couple of things, so I'd love if any of you have any that I may have missed, please send them on. And I think that's all I have for right now. I do have something I'll add later on after Kyle speaks, but that's it for right now.
Thank you. Now we're going to move over to Jonathan and talk about mapping just a little bit.
All right, good morning. The last time we talked, we had started our procurement process, and now we have made it through that procurement process. And we have Neil Schaefer, who's going to be assisting us in our initial mapping phases. And I think some of their staff have joined us on this call today. So welcome, Neil Schaefer. Another RFP is going to be going out really soon to help build our broadband map. And with that, the FCC BDC Fabric Challenge process, it started last month. If you're challenging any of the locations, we would love to have a conversation with you about the areas that you're challenging. So our challenges and your challenges all work together, and we're not fighting against each other, and we're definitely working together. We'll also be sending out a request for your service areas that you currently have at least 1020 service. And this request will be subject to the confidentiality that's provided in House Bill 1029. And with information on the types of files needed for that request, I'm going to pass over to our grants manager, Angel Stenmark, and she'll take it from here and describe exactly what she needs from y'all.
Good morning, everyone. Like Jonathan said, we are working on developing our map for the state of Mississippi. So what we will be requesting from all of you is a map that indicates all locations where customers can currently receive 100 megabits per second download, 20 megabits per second upload. We're going to ask that you send that to us in a KMZ file or a shape file, but instead of the historic way of sending that information in by census block level, we are moving down to the location level to be compatible with the FCC's new maps that'll be posted and publicly available next month. So to kind of go off of the details, the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is our grant application portal and how we'll be handling the grant application process once we do post the requirements for our capital projects fund and then the subsequent grant funds that we're going to have in the coming months. We are working through the process right now and talking with a couple of vendors on creating a grant application portal. So you'll be able to submit applications online through the Beam website. We will keep you updated on that process, and we will also be hosting a future call once the capital projects fund goes live. But just some things to keep in mind as you prepare to apply for capital projects funds are that we will have to post the applications that we receive on our website and have a challenge process. So as you're preparing your information, you'll want to put together one set of documents in a zip file that will be able to be shared publicly, and then another set of documents that will include your confidential information. And like our statute that created the Beam office says, those items will be kept confidential. So we'll have lots of additional details in the coming weeks as we finalize all of those things. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And that is all I have for today. Thanks, Sally.
Thank you, Angel and Jonathan. I think this would be a good time to hear from Katie as well, as we're talking about mapping and service areas. Katie is our frontline office manager, and so she has a couple of comments. Katie?
Yes. So since Beam has been established, we've been getting a lot of incoming phone calls. And as the person taking these calls, I hear it all. I hear the concerns, the complaints. I hear a lot of service related issues. So what we're needing from our internet service providers is a higher level contact other than customer service. And this would be for Beam to utilize only. This is not information we will be sharing with the public. And this is not something we anticipate using often. By the time some of these calls have reached us, they've spoken to customer service, they've had technicians come out, they've done all they know to do. And we're talking about serious service-related issues that Beam feels needs to be addressed. So we need someone from each internet service provider who we can reach out to about these particular issues. I'm going to drop my email in the chat, and if you could all email me those contact names and information, that would be very helpful for us.
Thank you. And Katie is also frontline for scheduling meetings and community engagement events. So she's an important person to know in our office. Next, I am going to call on Kyle Brown, who's going to talk about what all we have coming up.
Thanks, Sally. Good morning, everybody. It's going to be kind of a link dump in the chat from me. One of the first things that we really want to talk about is procurement and making sure that we're following all procurement guidelines. And so one of the first things that we at Beam now have is an awesome team of accountants and auditors from Ernst & Young, and several of them are on the call. And so we have Tanner, Samantha, and Alan from Ernst & Young on the call with us. And their thing is to make sure that Mississippi operates under a zero clawbacks period guideline. And so as part of that, it is making sure we are following all ARPA, all Treasury guidelines. And so they're going to be beside us all the way and making sure that we do that. And so one of the first things that you can do as we get ready to start the portal process, as we get ready to start doing all of the intake of applications, is go to DFA's website, which I just dropped in the chat, and there are 3 videos. And if your company is to receive state funds through ARPA, someone from your company will have had to have watched these videos and attest that they have been watched. Okay, so that's one of the first things. Another thing is making sure as we get ready to do applications is making sure you've read the Treasury guidelines. This is a second link. It's about 25 pages. And in there, it actually talks about making sure that everybody is in compliance. And as part of the application process, you are going to have to fall under 2 CFR 200, which are federal statutes that govern the program. and the link to 2 CFR 200 is now in the chat. And the other thing that they have also done is some frequently asked questions that Treasury has done. And if you've not read them, I would encourage you to go ahead and read those now as well. And one thing that everyone is going to have to follow is making sure that you are environmentally compliant. I know most of you on this call have existing poles, existing right-of-ways, all of that kind of stuff will most likely in most areas be under a categorical exclusion, but Treasury has already put together an environmental questionnaire that as you begin to kind of look at your projects and where you think you may want to go, please make sure that you are actually following environmental compliance, okay? And the last thing that I have is as we get closer to awarding funds and moving forward, the state of Mississippi pays everyone back through a system called Pay Mode. And one thing, if you plan on doing an application, you may actually want to begin the process of doing your Pay Mode application through DFA, because that is normally a 4 to 6 week process. And so you don't want to get down the road and realize that you have forgotten to do your Pay Mode application, and there's not a method to reimburse you. And so I know that that is quite a few links of information, but I hope you find that information helpful. And one thing, as you kind of begin looking at what projects you may want to do, another helpful thing is something that the BEAM office is all too familiar with, which is the SF 424C, which is 14 budget categories that you will more than likely want to become very familiar with as you get ready to think about and start planning your projects and looking at budgets for all of your different projects that you may want to apply for. So I hope that was not too far into the weeds for everybody, and I'll turn it back over to Sally.
Thank you, Kyle. That is Kyle's job, is to be in the weeds. That's his job description.
Allie, can I
Brett.
say something real quick before you
Sure.
continue? So Kyle talked some about procurement, I believe. And so we are posting your procurement links to your websites on our website as well, just to help with publicity for that. So if you have a link on your website for us to list some procurement, please send that to me, and I'll be glad to get that posted. I do have 2 who've already done that, and that is listed on our website already.
And
So-
and oh, sorry, Sally, and I forgot to actually mention, we, on the accountants and auditors front, we have Ernst & Young, and then on our engineering front, that will be reviewing your environmental assessments, budgets, and also construction monitoring. The state also has Neil Schaefer, Wagner Engineering, and Covington Engineering that will be assisting us in making sure that we stay in federal compliance.
So the links that we already have up, the procurement links, are relating to a grant that we're currently administering, the BIP grant, which was the $32 million grant that has 10 different projects that we received at the public utilities staff, which has now been transferred over to the BEAM office. So that's why there are already some links up there. It's relevant to the BIP grant. So now I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what we expect our capital projects fund program to look like. Again, this is subject to approval. And we would ask that if you have questions, if you would put them in the chat. We are not going to answer them on this call, but we will either answer them by contacting you individually, or we may come up with a set of FAQs if we see the same question system-wide. So as I said earlier, the grant fund is not anything new or different, really, but we do have a few details. It is going to be $130 million will be for large-scale infrastructure projects with a 20% match required. Of that $130 million, we are going to kind of separate $15 million out of that to prioritize communities who want to use ARPA funds for their match. But for that priority, we're going to require a larger match of 50% of ARPA funds from that community. So again, these are large-scale infrastructure projects. They will be for unserved areas that can deliver 100 symmetrical speeds, or that can reliably demonstrate 120 and be scalable to 100 symmetrical. Again, this is all in line with the CPF guidance that's out there. So 130 million with large scale projects with a portion of that sectioned off for communities using ARPA funds in order to really encourage that public and private partnership. We will also have $20 million to fund extensions of existing networks, line extensions that can be done and constructed quickly. We will require a match of $500 per address required. We're going to have a $5 million per project cap on those projects. Then we've also set aside $3 million of the fund for digital connectivity projects to focus on public Wi-Fi, and we will have more details about that in the future. So just kind of to move back a little bit and reiterate, the priority will be for areas that are not currently served by a wireline connection that reliably delivers at least 120. It cannot be used for costs that will be reimbursed by other federal funding, but can be used for complementary funding if that is justified, is demonstrated and justified. The period of performance, of course, you all know it is December 31, 2026 is our deadline for having all funds extended, unless there is an extension of the program. And, who knows what's going to go on with the ability to get materials and supply, but we sure hope to be finished with this at that time. As far as timeline goes for getting this out the door, we just really are dependent on the feds. I would hope that we could get our application portal up by mid-November, and then work through that challenge process and make awards as close to the first of the year as possible. So that is what we are planning. We have a big job ahead of us. All of you do too. We really appreciate all of you and really kind of the sense we have that we're all collaborating to do what is best for the state of Mississippi and provide service to everyone. This is going to be that first step. I believe we were on the phone this week with some of the federal folks who really complimented the fact that in Mississippi, we really did seem to have a good relationship with a lot of providers and communication with our providers to talk through issues as they kind of pop up and handle those issues. So we look forward to maintaining that. And I see that we have several questions that we will answer in an FAQ that we will release within a week or so, maybe sooner. Does any of my team have anything additional to say or add to the conversation? Okay, well, with that, we thank you for being on our call today. As soon as I'm going to ask Ashley if you would put I'm going to just have her to put in the chat the scoring categories. We will be governed by House Bill 1029 that has the scoring categories that we will be using. We will be, of course, assigning different weights to those categories, and we'll have those details to you before, of course, well in advance of any application deadline. But just so to make sure you're familiar with those categories, we wanted to put that out there for you as well. And I would encourage you to go back and read House Bill 1029 to make sure you understand what our obligations are under the Mississippi statute.
And those
All
are
right,
already in the chat, Sally.
Oh, good. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
put them in there for you. And I'll keep the meeting going for another minute or two. So if you have questions, that way you have time to type them out. And then all the links that Kyle put in the chat and Katie's email, all of that, we'll compile that and send that out after the meeting this afternoon.
All right. Thank you all for attending. I want to thank my team for their hard work. We've been meeting a lot of deadlines and getting a lot of work done. So I appreciate all of them. I appreciate all of you. And we will have another call when we get approval and when we have some additional information for you. All right. Thank you.
Hey.